Welcome to the Wrestling So Cool podcast. My name's Cam. We're going to talk about Double or Nothing 2021 that took place on May 30th, about 2 weeks from now, at a Daly's Place in Jacksonville before a live crowd. Um, so there was a few matches on the night. They had the buy-in, which ended up being Serena Deeb versus Riho for the NWA World's Women's Champion. That was kind of like the kickoff, aka pre-show heat. If you're an old WWF guy, actually, um, it was just one of the things that they did to try and get everyone started into the show. Um, this was a back and forth one. Basically, Serena ended up winning by submission. What did you end up thinking about this one?
I mean, for a pre-show or kickoff or buy-in match, it actually wasn't bad. I enjoyed it.
I think Serena is actually able to show now what she was capable of that she didn't necessarily get to show in the WWE because of the whole issues with her out of wrestling character, because she was supposed to be part of the straight edge society and was out drinking and whatnot.
Yeah.
She's definitely shown to be a very strong wrestler and entertainer. Riho, I feel bad for Riho only because I've watched AEW and I still barely understand Riho's character, and that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
It's just one of those where it kind of shows where there is a little bit of lacking in how they present the women for AEW, and hopefully with them getting Rampage, there is going to be more of an opportunity for them to show their abilities. The next one, which actually ended up being the first match of the night, was Hangman Adam Page versus Brian Cage. This was a good back and forth. The story here was interesting because they're trying to play up like Brian doesn't want interference. He wants to show he can do it himself. He actually got annoyed at Hook and Ricky Starks. I almost blanked on who it was. Ricky Starks trying to help and interfere with the match and kind of cheat to win, where Brian didn't really want to do that. I have a strong feeling that this is going to lead to Brian turning face and kind of leaving Team Taz in the TV since then. That hasn't happened yet, but I think that's where this is going. And I'm really hoping that they're using this as a platform to show that Adam Page can beat Kenny Omega for the AEW title. Some of the reports that have been coming out since is that Kenny Omega's hurt, so he might not be carrying the titles much longer. Would you end up thinking about this one?
Minus the Team Taz trying to interfere, I thought it was a pretty good match. But it does kind of lead to what you said with Page possibly going to beat Omega for the title at some point down the line.
I think they're going to have to speed it up if the reports are true that he's hurt.
Yeah, at some point. Before he gets too hurt and can't, even... Where's he hurt at? Do you know?
It doesn't say... So it didn't specifically state where he's hurt. What it basically says is that he's having difficulty moving and getting out of bed and is in a lot of pain.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'd rather it be before he can't even, walk and shit.
Yeah, and that's the problem with his style. It's kind of weird. I don't want to blame it necessarily on his style, but his style is just one of those where it's going to lead to a lot of injuries. Rey Mysterio has had a lot of injuries in his knees, his legs, and whatnot. And I'm wondering if because he did it rough and hard for so long, it's just going to shorten his career in ring. I mean, there's been posts of Shawn Michaels posing backstage with people from NXT, and it looked like his legs have taken a beating, and he was nowhere near as agile in the ring as Kenny Omega is, or even like a Pac and people like that. And I'm not saying that Michaels looks bad for his age because he's in a lot better shape than people his own age, but it's you could definitely tell a war on his body, and I don't want Kenny to kind of go through that himself. Um, but yeah, that's what I think they're building up to.
And it sucks because I've only seen because I was never really big on the indies when I first started getting into it. I was more of a WWE guy. As I got older, I got more into the indies and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I never really got to see Omega wrestle until his match with Jericho a few years ago.
Same here, and it was just because it wasn't really available. Locally, I wasn't able to get New Japan Pro Wrestling until I believe the month before Jericho went over there to face Omega. So it was one of those where it wasn't available. So Kenny Omega never really showed up over here. I did see a lot of the stuff from Ring of Honor and Impact / TNA and things like that, and I was leaning more that direction anyway, away from WWE. WWE is just it's hard because they're one of the biggest games in town, but to say I've always been like a diehard fan is not even close to being true. I'm even more critical of them than anything else.
Yeah, because they're only doing character work with certain people like Reigns and
their NXT is very close to what indie style is.
Yeah.
What I don't like is that I could pretty much tell you what happened on Raw without seeing Raw, and that's not a good thing. All I have to do is look at the card and be like, "Oh, he won. They did this here and things like that." It's very predictable, and I never really liked the predictable aspect. Like going into the end of the show, I did kind of lean towards. I think Kenny Omega's going to keep it, but it was more or less me saying that based on the fact that they're running with and collecting all the belts. Without that, how they built up the end of the match, it was kind of up in the air who you thought was going to win. They made Pac look strong, and they look Orange Cassidy look like they made it seem like Orange Cassidy might sneak it out. So that's proper building. It's not okay. They're not gonna for instance, advertise for Hell in the Cells, Roman Reigns and Rey Mysterio. Rey Mysterio is not winning that one. We all know that. That's sad. And it has a very bad build. Honestly, I thought it would have been better if they mixed it up and maybe did a fatal four-way between Roman and Rey and Cesaro and Seth. I think honestly that would have been better. And fatal four-way and Hell in the Cell would probably be a better match overall.
That'd also be a really good match.
It would be because you're combining all the stories. Because Cesaro kind of got screwed out of the match with Roman, so of course he has to face Seth, but at the same time he still wants to gear for Roman. And if they build up that, because they had Seth and Rey going at it before before Cesaro and Seth, because you could build on that as well. You can make it work to where it's all intertwined.
And then you know the whole story between Reigns and Seth.
Exactly. Exactly.
Back to the Shield, back to them splitting up again.
Well, okay, sorry. Now we're gonna go to a little bit of a fantasy booking with that, because if they did that, they could kind of tease the whole fact that whether or not Seth and Roman would stick together. Which honestly, that even though it's predictable, it would be entertaining because you could also have this thing where once they kind of team up, Roman just lays out Seth and that kind of thing, not win the match, but throw another wrinkle in there.
Yeah.
But either way, that's been my biggest issue with WWE. It's too predictable. A lot of these matches, they might have won where I thought they might have won. Some of them not completely the case, but it was one of those where it was entertaining and it did have that, whoa, it might not go the way I actually thought. And Hangman versus Bryan was one of those. I was 60-40 on Hangman winning. But at the same time, I could see where Brian Cage can win this one.
Yeah.
And then the next match, you got the Young Bucks versus Moxley and Kingston. It was one of those where I'm like, okay, I don't think that they're really going to take the title off the Bucks because of the whole elite thing. But at the same time, you got Moxley and Kingston. So this is probably going to be a possibility where Moxley and Kingston take the titles. And Kingston got a huge pop. He hasn't had that because he's been wrestling mainly with AEW during the whole pandemic. So it was one of those where it showed that Kingston has the crowd behind him. I mean, at one point, I think even the TV after people were chanting Eddie. So um, it would be. I actually, when it comes to Eddie, I actually would like to see him win the TNT title.
Yeah.
Maybe off of Miro down the line, but and if he does that, he would have to be like a hardcore match. But he's definitely getting that backing from the crowd. The
Yeah.
Bucks, the Bucks were asses throughout this whole thing. They made fun of the whole Ric Flair and Shawn Michaels thing. They made fun of the Macho Man, I believe, if I remember correctly. They made fun of the Shield. They're
Yeah.
just being asses.
Yeah. I enjoyed the storytelling with this match, though, and just all the action that even happened in it. And now that I'm looking back on it, it says normal tag team match. There were tags in this match? It seemed like a tornado match.
It had a lot of tornado things in it, which is what you're gonna get with the Young Bucks. But yeah, there was a normal tag match,
Yeah.
and they're more loose with it.
Yeah.
And I love when Eddie caught a glimpse of, I think it was Gallows coming in through the crowd, and he just ran and did a somersault off the apron.
Yeah, that was funny.
And then the Bucks ended up busting open Moxley with that can of aerosol, whatever it is. And I don't think he bladed. I think they literally just popped him wrong and caused it to bleed.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're going to do further this storyline because Moxley, I believe, is going to be off TV now because of his personal life with the birth of his child. But overall, it was a good match, entertaining. Bucks had to cheat to win. So it's going to be coming across one of those things where once they get beat, it's going to matter. Same thing with Omega. Once they get beat, it's going to matter. There was also the Casino Battle Royale, and I like the Battle Royale. I like how unique it is, but I do think it's a little hard to understand. I think they would have been better off because no one knows what group is in what group. So if they advertise, before the match, hearts are these guys, spades are these guys, clubs are these guys, diamonds are these guys, I think it would have been better. And of course, you can always have the Joker card, which is a random pop appearance, if you will. But I think that'd probably be best to do to get the crowd behind and get excited when they see the card pop up on the I don't want to call it a Titantron, but the big screen inside the arena. I think that's the only way they can do it to kind of get more excitement behind it.
Leo Rush was the Joker, right?
Yes, he was, and it's sad that he had to retire shortly after that because I actually was entertained by Leo Rush when he was in WWF, and this was a good showing for him.
Yeah, definitely on the mic with Lashley and in the ring.
There's a lot of things I remember. I just remember him mainly being quick, and he kind of showed it here when he was the Joker card. The first few that were in the ring were Will Hobbs, Dustin, Matt Sydal, Christian, and Max Caster. Max Caster of the Acclaim. He cut a little bit of a rap promo on it, saying Christian's dusting off the cobwebs. He was cool when he had an edge or something along those lines, kind of throwing a dig at Dustin and Christian being old and Christian's former life as tag team partner with Edge from WWE. And then he kind of he threw it at Matt Sydal about him slipping at the last Double or Nothing last year because of the humidity on the turnbuckle pad. And then he threw another jab at Dustin mainly because Goldust being ugly has to paint his whole face, things like that. Which is a pretty good promo leading into the match. He didn't say anything about Will Hobbs. He just mainly went after the former WWE guys. We had two people dressed up as the Joker, which I made a joke about this on Facebook, but who wore it better, between Preston Vance 10 from the Dark Order and Penta as L0M. I think it's how his name shows, but Pentagon Jr. They both dressed as the Joker. Which honestly, I think Pentas look amazing by comparison. They also had Aaron Solo,